Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 31 of High Street Sports. This is the Buckeye Show. My name is Chris. This is Vince. A lot is going on in the last, 3-4 days for Ohio State. A lot is going on in the last same period of time across the country. The transfer portal is madness. College football is madness. The college football playoff selection show happened, and there's a mixed bag of reaction there. Obviously, if you're a Florida State fan, you're pissed off about it, but we'll save that conversation for another day. We're here to talk about the Buckeyes and what's going on in Columbus at the moment. Vince, what's going on? Initial thoughts on the last couple of days?
Yeah, the last couple of days have been crazy. Really surprised to see a undefeated team get kicked out for Bama, but I understand it. $150 million was the difference there that ESPN could have lost out on if they put in Florida State over Alabama. So take that for what it is. Disney cares about the money, just like everybody in college football, which brings me to my next point. Matt Rule said the other day, acknowledged that to get a quarterback out of the transfer portal comes with a minimum price tag of about $1 million, upwards of $2 million. And that was for a starting quarterback out of the portal. NIL is absolutely nuts. And I would have to say that I think that is the biggest driver here with the transfer portal and all the madness that's going on in college football. If you've been living under a rock lately, Kyle McCord's in the transfer portal, Jair Brown, Ryan Turner, who's the other?
Julian Fleming,
back?
Amari Abor,
yep.
Vic Cutler, Jacob James, and Kai Stokes.
There it is. Kai Stokes was the one. So, it and then Ohio State just lost a big recruit in Justin Scott to Miami. Speculation is that was related to an NIL deal.
No, there's no speculation. When you put a stack of money on a recruiting graphic, there is no longer any speculation there. That move was NIL driven. Miami, has made it known that they will throw around a bunch of money, which is interesting to see that they're still trying to go out and do those things and recruit that way and get players to Miami that way when all that talk about the big NIL driver down there at whatever his name is with all of his legal issues and his business and his money the way that it is right now, it seems like that's something that's getting ready to implode. But if and I'm going to get on a soapbox here, I think Ohio State tries to tiptoe that line of doing what's right and what's wrong in terms of NIL and getting guys to come to Ohio State, and they've missed out on a lot of big time defensive line recruits in the last 3 years, and that's no secret. That's the driving factor behind the conversation of, is Larry Johnson still the man for the job there? I think that he is. I don't think that that's really the question there, but Ohio State isn't willing to necessarily go out and throw a bunch of money at players that haven't stepped foot on campus and have never played a snap of college football. Now, there are exceptions with that. Jeremiah Smith, if everything stays on track there and he ends up in Columbus, there is, it's known that Jeremiah Smith has a nice NIL package waiting for him when he gets to Columbus. But, I think across the board, Ohio State's not a program that's just going to throw money at any and everybody to come to Ohio State in terms of the way that programs like Miami and Texas A&M are. And so, if that's the driving factor and if that's what you want to do. Now, listen, Ohio State posted a graphic today on social media that they've had 6 Heisman finalists in the last 6 years. And one of those being Chase Young. And, you look across the league, you got the Bosas, you got Chase Young, you got Sam Hubbard. You've got, guys that are making an impact at the highest level. If you look at Miami's track record over the last however long, maybe since Ohio State killed that program, that does not stand true for Miami. And if that's what Justin Scott wants, and if that's what is important to Justin Scott, then good riddance. Go be 7-5 and not play for an ACC championship. You can have it. But
Don't forget
putting
about my
money,
homie Taekwon Lewis as one of those guys.
yes, Tyquan Lewis as well.
Long time in the
Um,
league and
yeah,
just
yeah, and
good.
I just don't. There's no speculation when you put a stack of money on a recruiting graphic. That tells you everything you need to know about that situation.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the point to note here is that kids can't get money while they're in high school. They can't
Mhm.
sign a contract before they get on campus and are enrolled in school and are on the team. So it equates to some guy who you don't even know who has a lot of money trying to promise you money. Um, and Texas A&M wide receiver Evan Stewart came out the other day with a post that says, "I saw it coming freshman year when I didn't get paid $1 from M&M or A&M, but sliced bread and y'all thinking we was millionaires." So it just goes to show you that a lot of this is just a giant fugazi.
Mhm.
It is just the carrot to draw in the guys, the big name guys, and then John Ruiz from Miami, big oil tycoons from Texas. They don't have to honor their word. They can look at you and go, "You dumb, naive 17-year-old kid. Get fucked. Welcome to what America is." So, word to the wise out there, if you're chasing NIL money, good luck, my friends, because nothing's guaranteed. And in my mind, I think NIL is a great thing. Pay the players, but pay the players for their actual name, image, and likeness. Don't just pay to play. Do it like it's supposed to be. Let the guys actually play on the field before you start giving them a truckload of money, because you get guys that don't pan out or leave or whatever the case may be. And guess what? You also get sleazeballs that aren't going to give you that bag. They just want you to come to their school.
Yeah, and I mean it's created a situation where in the case of Amari Abor, dealt with some unfortunate injury and just kind of saw the writing on the walls that he wasn't going to get on the field. But I believe Ohio State was his second choice, anyways. So it's kind of created a situation where a lot of guys that are going to these schools don't give a shit about who they're playing for, and they don't care about the school. They don't care about any of that. They're chasing the money, and they know that if it doesn't work out for them, then they can go get a bag and go play somewhere else immediately. And I think that's one of the big issues too is there's there's no rules. It's the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are playing at 3 schools in 3 years, not having to sit out a year, and there's Oregon's tight end who has a ninth year of eligibility coming his way next year. There's no rules right now, and it's tough to manage. I can only imagine what it's like for these coaches to wrap their heads around what's going on. You've got guys. There's 8 on this list that we just named for Ohio State that have entered the portal in the last 3 days, and people it just there's no end to it. And I can only imagine what it's like I said, for these coaches to have to manage this and recruit this and keep your own guys and renegotiate NIL and just to keep your own roster intact. But without subtraction, there cannot be addition. And Ohio State is going to certainly look at the portal and evaluate the talent that's there at all positions. You've seen the back end of the defense take a hit as far as depth goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Ryan Turner and Jair Brown leaving, I think that's um, it's a good sign that Jordan Hancock will likely be back. So there's some silver lining there to look at, but it's no doubt you're going to need to go get another safety. You're going to need to go get potentially another corner, even with the guys that you've got coming in and the young guys that were not able to see the field last year. So there's a lot of questions that Ohio State's going to have to answer, and it's gonna be a pivotal offseason for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking through who's out there and everything, It's a very interesting class. You've got, I think it was, I saw a graphic today. I think it's like 4 of the top 5 quarterbacks from the 21 or 22 class, all in the portal. Um, you've got, you know, all kinds of what I would call guys that are Ohio State, probably caliber players. So I'm interested to see what Ohio State decides that they're going to do in the transfer portal. It seems a lot like we're getting there soon, and it's going to be a fun battle till the end. I think Ohio State really needs to pick up, I don't know, 2 or 3. Um, Probably 2 or 3 guys in the portal, at least one quarterback. I don't know if you go after somebody maybe like a DeQuan Finn to come in and try to ball out. I know that he was really, really good at Toledo this year, and would maybe not disrupt the room as much as a Cam Ward might, and still bring in some competition there. You also have Brock Vandegrift from Georgia, who is also another one of those top 5 guys that I was mentioning. Do you go take a look at him? He barely got beat out by Carson Beck at Georgia. So is it worth going and getting a dog from Georgia? We know what happened the last time um, Ohio State got a backup Georgia quarterback. Is this one worth it too?
No, there's no guy out there that's a Justin Fields. I think that's
I,
pretty
I
straight up.
was
And I'm not
just
saying
saying
that
it
you
worked
said
out
that.
well.
I'm not saying that you said that, but I don't think that any of these guys that are available will, you know, come in and right away be the clear cut guy at quarterback next year. And, I think
Mhm.
it's an interesting situation to look at because you mentioned a guy like DeQuan Finn who would not come in and just be the guaranteed starter at Ohio State. You mentioned, some of those other guys, and there's a Cam Ward out there who I'm not even convinced would step in and be the clear cut starter next year at Ohio State. So I don't know what you can do without risking Devin Brown walking away or Lincoln Keenholz walking away or Air Nolan walking away, or and even if you can't, there's no under no circumstance can you get a guy that has more than 1 year of eligibility, because at that point, then what's Tavian Sinclair thinking? Then what you can't risk the class to go get a one-off or a guy that has 2 or 3 years of eligibility left. You can't do it because with Kyle McCord leaving, that's already a failed recruiting class at quarterback for Ohio State, and he played well. I think there's a misconception with Kyle McCord that he was trash or sucked or anything like that. I don't think that should be the takeaway from Kyle McCord deciding to leave Ohio State. I would also like to point out that you know there's constructive criticism. There is there's ways to go about, as far as fans and prognosticators go, of and even alumni of the program, of making their feelings known about the product that's been on the field. I think we can all, as a collective, as Ohio State fans, agree that there was um, more than a little bit left on the table from Kyle McCord this year. But when you go back and you look at his numbers and you compare them to the rest of the country, they weren't really that bad. Now, I would like to also point out that the string of quarterbacks that Ohio State's had, 3 of which being Heisman finalists,
Mhm.
uh, and really all 3 of them with a very good case to win that award, that's not normal. You
No,
know,
it's
the
certainly not.
success, the numbers, the production that Ohio State's had at that position over the last 7 to 8 years is not normal. And I think there's a lot of Ohio State fans that have become blindly used to seeing that without understanding that, again, that is not a normal situation. And so I think Kyle McCord was the unfortunate heir to that position, following 3 pretty generational talents at that position.
Mhm.
And so I would like to, point out the fact that that notion that Kyle McCord sucked, or that Kyle McCord, you know, just was absolute trash, is not, it couldn't be further from the truth. Kyle had a very good season to a lot of program standards, and he fell victim to the Ohio State standard at quarterback. Now, where I will say that he didn't do himself any favors is treating the Michigan game like it was just another game. And I will also say that the last 8 minutes of that game, where he just sat on the bench next to Marv, was not active up and down the sideline, pumping guys up and getting, making it known to his team that they were going to have the ball back and go win it. And that to me was concerning. I will say that I don't think that his energy level, his leadership level, as an outside observer, was that
Mhm.
of a CJ Stroud, a Justin Fields, a Dwayne Haskins. So he did leave a little bit on the table, and I think that Ohio State fans are going to have a sour taste in their mouth about Kyle McCord. But I don't see any of the options available being worthy enough to come in and throw the quarterback room and the quarterback recruiting in flux at this point in time. And that's just kind of my opinion. Now, do I think a Cam Ward could come in and help out? Sure. But I think, I'm of Ryan Day's opinion that there there won't be a move made unless it is a clear-cut upgrade to the position. And I don't look at any of these guys, and Bill Landis on the podcast made an incredible point too, which I find to be true, is that if you watch Cam Ward's highlights, there's a lot to be excited about. But if you watch a full game, it might leave you with a different opinion. But John Ross also on the Wednesday show made
Mhm.
a very good point too, that with Ohio State's weapons and Ohio State's coaching and Ohio State's offense, that could be a little bit of a different story. So there's a lot of what ifs to this transfer portal thing, and bringing in another quarterback. But I just, it's a delicate situation, and I would hate to see the guys that are there walk away, and all for a 1 year starter, or whatever the case might be. So you know if they can come elevate the position, then sure. But I'm not convinced that the guys that are available, a Dylan Gabriel who's played 5 years of college football and is going to be on his third team, there's too many situations like that, and it's hard to look at any of those guys and right now convincingly say that they would come in and elevate the position.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm asking for somebody to come in and elevate the position per se, as far as being anointed the day one starter as soon as they walk in the door, like Justin Fields did.
Right.
What we need is another guy in there to push the other guys in the room along. And that's why I suggest someone like Daquan Finn. He's a
Hmm.
baller. He's coming from Toledo. He knows that it's an uphill battle, but he's a dog and wants to win.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that that's what you need to get in there. I think that what Ohio State has been lacking from the quarterback position this season has been that competitive excellence. There's been
Hmm.
zero of it. You look
Yeah.
at Kyle, the last 8 minutes of the game, in the game, and he's sitting there pouting. And that's not a shot at Kyle. I'm sure that there were tough things going on, and he was trying to make his way through it. Or, hey, man, some people are not cut out to be the starter at Ohio State.
Yep. I agree.
And from my understanding, a lot of this was driven by his dad.
Hmm.
And his dad was pushing for answers and clear paths. And Ryan Day would not guarantee anybody a starting position next year, or even for the bowl game, for that matter. From my understanding, they did have a meeting prior to the press conference the other day. And basically Ryan laid that whole scenario out, and Kyle and his dad were not pleased with that. So he decided that it was time to move on. And good for the kid to understand that, hey, this situation isn't right for me and I should probably move on. I think that, he's going to do great somewhere else, that maybe not that doesn't have the expectation of win every single game and win the national championship. That is the expectation at Ohio State. That
Mhm.
shouldn't be the expectation anywhere, but it is at Ohio State because it is such a big and influential program. So I think what it comes down to, especially at the quarterback position, you need to bring in someone who's going to spark some more competition. I don't see Devin Brown or Lincoln Kienholz as the type of guy to run when the going gets tough. They both seem like gamers, ballers, whatever you want to call it. They have that fire in them. They have that dog where they want to fight. They don't care who it is. I know that Devin Brown even said that when he was coming in. He said, "I don't care. Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord came in ahead of me. Fine, I'll fight. I'll win. Let me go battle." And that's what he wanted to do. And that's what we need at Ohio State. I don't care
Mhm.
who it is. It could be nobody. It could be, what's the kid from Kaufman we took a couple of years ago um, behind Justin Fields.
I can't remember.
But you get the point. He transferred from Kentucky. It
Oh,
wasn't
Gunnar Hoak.
chugging up. Yeah, Gunnar Hoak. Exactly. Just another guy to come in. It doesn't. It has to be just somebody who, like, it can be that guy, but he has to drive that competition within the room. And I think that that's what was lacking in that competitive excellence. There's a reason JT Barrett was a 5-year starter at Ohio State. Yeah, obviously he got hurt and didn't win a national championship because he was hurt. And then the following year, that whole debacle with him starting, then not starting, then starting, and it was just a mess. But he was a 5-year starter at Ohio State, not because he was always the best quarterback in the room. It was because he was the best competitor in the room and best leader in the room.
Mhm.
So that's
And
what you need at Ohio State.
mind you, before he gets hurt in that Michigan game, I'm a firm believer. If he stays healthy through that Michigan game, wins a Big Ten championship, wins that game against Alabama, and wins a national championship, if the same thing were to hold true and JT Barrett was that quarterback, JT Barrett would have won the Heisman that year.
Well, so you got to think about it though. Heisman votes are usually in pre
Right,
conference
right,
championship games.
right.
So it might have been the
Either
next
way,
year that he would have won the
either
Heisman
way,
as a
I,
consolation. But
I think
I
he
understand what you're
I
saying.
think he would have won that 14 Heisman. I think he was that good that 14 year.
He very well could have been, yes. Um, but I think no matter what you do, you got to bring in someone who's going to who's going to elevate the play in that room.
Yeah.
Um, and really, I think you're now looking at, with Mayan Williams leaving, Trey Henderson most likely leaving, um, and Chip Trainum. I think he's out of eligibility. I don't know, because who knows how much eligibility you have at this point. Like, it seems like everybody gets 19 years of eligibility. So what are you going to do there in the running back room? You got to go pick up a guy, right? I think
There's a few available.
one guy I want to see, and I don't see enough buzz around him, is EJ Smith. Ohio State recruited him so hard on the trail. Um, and, he went to Stanford instead. Was a all right, was an all right deal for him, but he's looking to move on. Maybe that's a good stopgap. He would be, I think, a junior or senior. So he has a couple of years left, but still he would be a senior, I think, with 1 year of eligibility left. Perfect. Bring a guy in, bridge, to be a backup to Dallin Hayden. You've got Evan Pryor in the portal as well. So that logjam in the
His name
running
was
back
not
room.
on my list.
Yep. You've got a logjam in that room, and you did, and now it's starting to slowly come apart. So you got to go pick up one or two guys there. I'd like to see a wide receiver or two as well get picked up by Ohio State. I think I mentioned him earlier as the one who I would like to see, and that's Evan Stewart, go out there and get a guy to come in, especially with Julian Fleming in there. I don't know that you're going to have a Mecca next year. You're certainly not going to have Marv now that he's a Heisman finalist. So I think you got to go get a wide receiver and see what works out. Evan Stewart's a young kid. I think he would be really, really good for that room, along with a Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis. And you're looking scary there. Get a guy who can sling it. And in all reality, I think that you've got a guy in the room, at least two guys right now in the room that can be starters. Well, potentially. You've got one that I know for sure he can be a starter at Ohio State, and that's Devin Brown.
Mhm.
I think we're going to see it in the bowl game against Missouri, especially now that we know that he was kind of the incumbent second anyway. So we'll see how it goes. Some breaking news. Javonte Jean-Baptiste is opting out of the Sun Bowl against Oregon State for Notre Dame. Actually, never mind. I apologize. That is fake news. Javonte Jean-Baptiste retweeted that and said, what? Question mark? So, it is what in the world?
Twitter is breaking Vince at the moment.
It is some dumbass, and I'll say dumbass. Oh, insider at Deadspin says that Marvin Harrison Jr. intends to enter the transfer portal. He received several lucrative offers and will evaluate potentials. I don't think Marvin's
still a thing.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is going one of two places. There's two places. The NFL or Ohio State. If he didn't leave after last season, he's not leaving again.
Yeah.
Period. The end.
Deadspin is, I don't.
Yeah.
I can't believe Deadspin's even a thing.
Well, they most likely won't be here very soon. After they've defamed that child fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. For painting his face black and white or black and red. So neither here nor there. Don't want to get into that on this show. This is a Buckeye show, and we like to try to keep things upbeat here. You can take your stupidity elsewhere. So Deadspin, see you later. Exit the chat. Stage right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, that's this way.
Yeah. Correct.
Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on. Tight end. You're going to lose Cade Stover. I think Joe Royer's in his last year as well. G. Scott Jr. could.
I think he's got another year should he take it, which is also unbelievable that he's got more eligibility, seeing that I think he was recruited. He came in, 18 or 19?
He came with Jackson Smith and Jigba, I believe. He came in the same class.
I mean, that's a long time.
And Chris Olave, I believe, was in that class as well. So, and then you've got Jelani Thurman as well in that room. Mm-hmm. And boy, that man's a freak. So I think maybe go get one guy out of the portal. I don't remember what recruiting's looking like for this season. Maybe go get one out of the portal. Offensive tackle. I certainly think you need to go get at least one tackle out of the portal. One guy who can start and one guy for depth. You really need something there because what's going on right now, I think Jimmy Josh Crackcorn Simmons I think he's pretty good. I think he's going to be an incumbent starter next year. But I think that the others leave a lot to be desired. And it's really hard for a true freshman to come in and play at tackle at Ohio State. I can only remember two guys doing it. No, sorry, one guy doing it, and that was Orlando Pace. I was thinking about Paris Johnson. He didn't come in and play tackle. He might have played guard his first year or two.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I mean that's tough. So portal guy there. I don't know much about the offensive line. Now there's a couple of Ohio guys in the portal from that played their college at Indiana, which I do believe that you take a look at those guys. Indiana's they're not the best program in the world, but I would go get a lineman from there. Um, and I think that you're going to be looking real good as far as that goes. They've got two guys, and I'm trying to find them here, a tackle and a inside guy, either guard or center, which I think you need to go take a look at. Also, there is I want to say center from Notre Dame in the portal as well. That wouldn't be a bad one to go look at. And it looks like the guy that I was talking about, Carter Smith. Yep, from Olentangy Liberty, he is committed to Ole Miss. So no shot we're getting that kid. Stinks,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. And I think you need to go probably get one or two interior guys just to shore things up. I mean, both um, you've got both guards likely moving on, Donovan Jackson and Matt Jones. I think Matt Jones has exhausted all of his eligibility. I think Donovan Jackson, sorry, man, has a year or two left, maybe, but I don't see him sticking around, and I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't stick around either.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some depth at the offensive line, especially at center now, given that Vic Cutler Jr. is also in the portal after one season with the Buckeyes. Just was, came in as kind of a developmental project. Didn't
Left
go the
as a
way that he wanted
developmental
it.
project.
Yeah, I mean, he was also, the Jacob James thing was kind of play there too. So
Who's
it's just,
also in the portal.
yeah. So I mean, you've got a couple of guys leaving. And some, via the portal and via
Mhm.
other reasons as well. I think Jimmy Simmons kind of came along as the year went on.
Mhm.
Kind of figured out the penalty issue with the last 3 or 4 games, and really have as many penalties called on him as he did earlier in the year. So, it just again some pretty shitty circumstances there on the offensive line. But I think as the year went on, it did get better. So, you got to think with a guy like Luke Montgomery, had a year in the program and in the strength program and things like that. He should be at least pushing to be a starter next year, given the roster turnover that's going to be there. And then, all the other factors at hand here. So I think the offensive line will bring in another, player or two and look a little bit different next year. But, again, that's the era of college football that we're in and the era of player movement that we're in and that the Buckeyes are looking at here. So interesting, interesting to see what all might happen there. And that's just on the offensive side of the ball. So,
Mhm.
you go out and you think about the defensive side of the ball. Buckeyes awaiting decisions from Mike Hall Jr. And some other,
He
JT
gone.
Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. So there's potential to have some serious turnover on the defensive line as well. In which case you'll probably need to go out and get one or two guys there, if not three.
Mhm.
So, I think cornerbacks should be pretty good. You got some young guys there. May need to get a depth piece there at corner. And then linebacker is a room with some turnover too. So
Yeah, both Reed Carrico and I'm struggling for the last one, entered the portal for Ohio State.
yeah, linebacker.
Yeah.
I saw Carrico, but I did not see another one.
I believe there was one more linebacker that went in for Ohio State. Now, I don't think it was someone who was going to be super impactful. I think your next two up are going to be Gabe Powers and CJ Hicks. So
Yeah,
I think you
Nigel
look at
Gardner in there too.
I
The
think
transfer
you
from Northwestern.
Yep. I think you go look at a couple of guys. I think there was some smoke around the linebacker from um, Maryland,
Mhm.
Jyshawn Barham. Um, I if I remember him playing us, I thought he was pretty good, and would be a nice addition to the room. Anytime you can get an athletic guy that can run at that position, I think you're in a good spot. And I think you probably only need one, maybe two guys out of the portal
Yeah.
at linebacker, maybe just one.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think you need to take one corner, probably a young guy. I wouldn't say one of the big flashy names or anything like that. I know there's not a lot of flashy names of corners in the portal right now, but I think you need to go check on someone. Um, Although there is the Clemson corner, Torino Pride. Um, I don't know if that's how you say it or not. There's a guy, Tavian Nicholson from Illinois, that's in there as well. That wouldn't be too bad of a poll. So there's a couple there, but I do think you need probably one or two depth guys as far as corners go. And then at safety, I think you need at least one, maybe two guys from the portal in addition to your recruiting.
Mhm.
Just because Josh Proctor's gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Lathan
yeah,
Ransom
you have
likely gone as well.
yeah, I don't know. Lathan Ransom had a really good season. I could see him coming back, but
But
just
would
because
you
I don't
though
think he
after a broken leg and then what he dealt with this year? I mean, it kinda, maybe a strike while the iron's hot kinda thing for him, but who knows where he would go in the draft. I see him with the injury and even has as good of a
Mhm.
season as he had, probably a, third round earliest, fourth round kinda talent there. So he might wanna come back and kinda try to up that stock, but after the injuries that he's dealt with at Ohio State, it might be a, is it worth it kinda thing.
Yeah, and I mean, you can always go out and get an insurance policy or whatever the case may be to rectify some of those concerns. We've seen it obviously with other players. Now, I don't think he's going to be a first round guy, regardless of whether he comes back or not. I think you're moving from a third, fourth round guy to a second, maybe third round guy.
Yeah.
And really, he reminds me of a guy like Jordan Fuller, where Jordan Fuller was elected captain his first year and he was a fourth or fifth round guy. Like,
Mhm.
just played solid, didn't get a lot of high praise or anything like that, but went to the NFL, balled out, and showed exactly why he was meant to be in the NFL. So, I think that you got to look for somebody there. I don't know a lot of these names in the portal, don't know a lot about safeties around the country. So, not going to speculate or
Mhm.
prognosticate on that one, just because if I don't know, there's no reason to talk about it other than we're probably going to need one or two. And what do you think about Jordan Hancock? Do you think he's coming back next year, or do you think he's off to the NFL?
Well, like I said earlier, with the departures of Ryan Turner and Jair Brown, I think that points in a good direction for Ohio State as far as that whole Jordan Hancock thing goes. So, I don't think these moves are fly by the seat of your pants. I think there are internal conversations that happen and conversations with coaching staff and things like that. So I wouldn't think that they would just up and make that move just for no reason. Now, if you're a guy like Ryan Turner, maybe, but Jair Brown was a guy that played a lot as a freshman.
Hmm.
Didn't really play all that much in meaningful snaps this year, but that was, how can you blame him when there's Davis Igbenos and Jordan Hancock and Denzel Burke out there doing what they do? So,
And
um,
Jermaine Matthews Jr.
and Jermaine Matthews. So, I would have to think that based on what we saw on the field, and then maybe some internal conversation there that Jordan Hancock will be back. Um, wouldn't necessarily shock me if Jordan Hancock decided to go, because he had a great year. But I as we sit here right now, I would expect him to be back. Now I could be wrong. It's happened a lot before, but that's just kind of my gut feeling based on the moves that we saw out of that room.
Do you think that he sticks in the nickel, or do you think he moves outside next year then?
No, I think he would stick in the nickel. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Have him in the nickel, have Davison on one side and Jermaine Matthews on the other, and kind of run that back. And that it worked when Denzel Burke was out. And I think that could be a really big piece to what Ohio State can do on defense
Mhm.
next year if they're able to get Jordan Hancock to stick around. So, yeah, I would definitely keep him where he was. He played that position well, and I mean there was just no other way to put it. Like he had a really
No,
solid season, and yeah, I think he's back, and I think he sticks in that position.
when you essentially beat out a freak like Sonny Styles, I think that there's conversations there about that seems to be his natural position. We've seen him on the outside, and I still think he could probably play on the outside, but I think that playing that nickel corner might be best suited for his skill set.
Mhm.
He likes to lay the hits. He likes to play that coverage. I mean, you're playing a lot of man to man on some fast, quick guys. He's kind of long, which makes it a little easier for him to play in those tight spaces.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting off season. I think going into this bowl game, and I don't think we really we'll get into it much today, just because there's so much going on with personnel and roster moves and things like that. That let's let the dust settle, have a couple of days of or a week or so of bowl prep before we really start hyping up that game against Missouri. This has a lot of the same feel of the last Cotton Bowl from 2017, where Ohio State didn't really seem interested in playing, but still went out there and whipped Sam Darnold and the USC Trojans around. And I expect a similar result here. Now, Missouri is an SEC team. They're a tough team, but Georgia did let them know that who's daddy in the SEC for them.
Well,
Although
yeah, but
Alabama
I'll
is daddy.
I'll
So,
push back
but
there for a second. Georgia got an immense amount of help in the last, probably 8 minutes of that game from the referees. Missouri was on track to beat Georgia before they got a phantom pass interference review, whatever that garbage was. So it's an interesting situation because, in a lot of ways, bowl games really don't matter if it's not the college football playoff. But you never want to go out and lose a bowl game. That does matter as far as like recruiting goes and things like that. Like it's a chance for recruits to see your team. It's a chance, you never want to lose a football game. And at
no.
Ohio State, that definitely holds true. And I think this game for me, Eli Drinkowitz is a hell of a coach, and the job that he's done this year should not be overstated at all. Missouri is a good football team, well coached on all fronts, and like I said, I I like Eli Drinkowitz. I think he's a good coach and
Mhm.
he's an entertaining guy. He's a player's coach. You can tell that he cares about his guys and cares about the game. And he's made comments that have really stuck out in the last couple of years about the direction of college football and his opinion on that. So this Missouri team is not going to be just a pushover for Ohio State, and obviously given the movement of the transfer portal and stuff like that, it's really turned into a this bowl prep and the practice leading up and the game itself is it's almost like a built-in preseason for what we're going to see next year. And I think as an Ohio State fan, what we want to see is this team treat it like that and treat it like a preseason sort of
Mhm.
look ahead into next year, because you got to see what you have at quarterback and you got to see what you have with the young guys that are going to be here next year. So it has the makings of you know Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba sort of game for Carnell Tate and Brendan Ennis. It's got potential for Dallin Hayden to go out there and just ball out. And for Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenholz to go out there and get valuable reps against a really good
Mhm.
SEC team. So this is it's going to be the next couple weeks, a lot of intrigue, a lot of building towards next year and seeing what's out there. And there's still some moves that are going to happen for Ohio State between now and then. I think everybody is expecting a Parker Fleming announcement that he is no longer with the program coming soon at some point, and that would be an easy one that should have been done probably Sunday, but it wasn't.
I think you're going to
And
wait until January for something like that. And the
which
only
I think
reason
would
I
be a
say that
mistake.
is because, well, so let me just say this: if you fire him now, there's likely a settlement or a buyout left on his contract. If you let his contract expire in January, like all of the contracts, then you don't have to worry about it. Now,
Which is
you
fair.
could you could say, "Hey, he's not going to be back at the end after this season. He can go look elsewhere for jobs." That's fine. Um, you could announce that, but I don't think Ryan Day wants to do that, especially with all the turmoil going around with everybody. What it sounds like everybody's bailing because of all these crazy reports that Ryan Day is shopping NFL jobs. I don't
I
think Ryan Day's going to the NFL. There's zero shot of that right now, unless
Ryan
he's
Day's not
really
going
that
anywhere.
tired. Unless he's really that tired of being in college football with the player carousel, whatever you want to call it, maybe that's it. But that would be the only reason I could see him leaving. And I don't think he's going to leave. He's too much of a competitor to leave after losing to his rival twice in a or three times in a row. Sorry. Um, I think that you'll see him at least go for 2 or 3 more seasons before we see any more smoke about him going to the NFL. And I don't think he's actually going to the NFL. How many times as a coordinator did we hear, oh, Ryan Day's going to the NFL? Every single season when he was the offensive coordinator, Ryan Day was headed to the NFL. So I'm not really too concerned about that. Just throwing that out there. And the only report of it that I've seen is from a Michigan grad. So take that for what it is. Just another whiny bitch trying to, give their program another advantage.
Yeah, well, Ryan Day's not going anywhere unless he loses to Michigan next year. Um, that's, I think, straight up the honest truth there. Second thing here is if you don't fire Parker Fleming and if you wait, damn a buyout, the dude's making $500,000 a year or whatever it is. Ohio
Mm-hmm.
State can afford that buyout. I don't want to hear that garbage. If you don't make a move, and I don't understand why you wouldn't make a move to fire Parker Fleming now with the absolute atrocity that special teams has been this year and for the last few years. If you don't fire Parker Fleming now, elevate James Laurinaitis and let James go recruit, that's a disservice to the program.
So outside of
Straight up.
recruiting, no. I understand that, but I have a question about James Laurinaitis. I've noted on this show that I would like to see him as a coach, but my question to that is, does he deserve it? Is he a good coach? We don't know if he's a good coach or not because he's only been a grad assistant 2 years. And one was at Notre Dame with his buddy Marcus Freeman. And again, not saying anything bad about that. And the second was here at Ohio State. Has James Laurinaitis proved that he can be a linebacker coach at college football at this level yet?
But he's not. Those aren't his guys. He hasn't gotten to recruit them.
It
Tommy
doesn't matter.
Eichenberg's not his.
Has
I don't.
he elevated the play in the year that he's been here to a level that you say we've got to hire that guy right now?
Why would you? But the idea that you wouldn't make the move to fire Parker Fleming, who
Oh no,
is
I'm
a
not saying
known.
that. I'm
But
saying the
why? So what?
automatic
But what's
assumption that
but
he's going to that
but
James Laurinaitis is
what's the
just going to
risk?
jump in there.
What's the risk? There's no risk. He's a
Billy
guy that
Davis
played
is
at
the
Ohio
risk.
State. There's no way to equate Billy Davis and James Laurinaitis. If you, for a
What
second,
do you
don't
mean?
think,
Billy Davis had NFL coaching experience, came in and was dog shit, and we don't know what James Laurinaitis
what,
is. That's
okay,
all I'm saying. I'm just saying we
Laurinaitis,
don't know.
okay, which is fair, but there's no risk at hiring James Laurinaitis. He can go recruit because he's been there, done that at Ohio State. He's an Ohio State legend. He's the
Mhm.
Rams' all-time tackling leader. That his accolades speak for himself. At this
But is
point,
he a good coach? That's the question.
there's no way to know unless you fucking find out.
Right.
There's
And
no. He's a linebackers coach. We're not talking about a defensive coordinator. We're
no,
not
no, no,
talking
no.
about a position that important. So if you take a 1-year flyer, 2-year flyer on James Laurinaitis, what's the worst that can happen? The recruiting at linebacker can't get worse. There's no
That's
chance.
true. That's true.
There's no chance. So what I mean, that's not even a conversation. Fire Parker Fleming, hire James Laurinaitis. I don't
You're
understand.
about to have two new linebackers with Steele and Tommy leaving, right? So you're about to have two new guys who maybe have been in the program a year or two, but they've got to be developed still. CJ Hicks is still a raw guy. So you're telling me that you trust that because James Laurinaitis is likely going to be good on the trail, that he's going to be a good player developer.
His play and his track record speaks for itself. And if
Just
you
because
you don't start at, I mean, when are you going to start? If not now, then when?
No, I'm not saying. I'm just asking those questions. I want him to be the coach, but
Well, then what are we even arguing about?
No. I'm just asking the questions are of, is it worth just hiring him
Yes.
off without any experience, or is it worth going and finding a guy that you maybe know is a proven guy at that position?
Again, we're talking about James Laurinaitis knows how to play the linebacker position. I don't really think there's any
No,
denying.
I don't think I think he knows how to play the linebacker's position, but does he know how to coach players to play the linebacker position? Because those are two different things.
There's nothing that tells me
I
that he
totally agree with you. I think that he will be a good leader in that room, but I think you have to ask that question, and an athletic director such as Gene Smith or the new guy coming in or girl, whoever it is going to ask that question of, is this the right move?
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
I don't understand how it's this big of a question. I think it's a no-brainer. Yes. You fire Parker Fleming and you put faith in James Laurinaitis.
Who coaches special teams then?
There's enough there. The point has been made across Ohio State beat. There's enough analysts, there's enough people in the program to where you can make that
analysts
happen.
Can't coach.
There's no need. There's enough resources at Ohio State. Somebody can coach them.
Who
better.
has a proven track record right now?
Who cares? Who cares? It cannot get worse than what it is. Who cares?
We're talking about firing a guy, and then the replacement is just leave them to their own vices.
You'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
I understand.
Can't get worse.
There's only one coach on the staff. There's only one coach on the staff that's ever coached special teams, and that's Perry Eliano. That's it. That's the only guy on the staff.
Then
that's
what
I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Do you feel comfortable with Perry Eliano coaching his room with Tim Walton's input and doing special teams? If you feel comfortable doing that, then yes, that's the answer.
Yes,
that's all I'm asking. I'm trying to ask the questions here.
Yes, the answer is yes. I don't know how many more times to say yes. Get Parker Fleming out. Special teams.
That is not being argued at all. That's not being argued there.
And James Laurinaitis is more than capable of doing it. Again, we're not talking about a defensive coordinator. I'm not talking make him the defensive coordinator. The guy doesn't become. And listen, if I don't think there's any reason to question whether James Laurinaitis can do it. He's a Buckeye great. What he did at Ohio State speaks for itself. What he did in the NFL speaks for itself. We'll find out if he can coach the position. But again, we're not talking about him being a defensive coordinator.
All right.
We're talking about him being a linebackers coach.
Okay.
I don't see. There's nothing to me that says that James Laurinaitis can't do it. I don't understand.
So you've made sandwiches your whole life, right? Yes. No.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me how to make a peanut butter sandwich.
This is ridiculous. I can't.
No. Tell me step by step how to make a peanut butter sandwich.
You take bread, you put the fucking peanut butter on it, and you put the bread together. That's how you fucking make a peanut butter sandwich. This is ridiculous that we're even. I can't believe.
No, the point is
whether or not James Laurinaitis can coach linebackers at Ohio State.
You're missing the point here.
I don't think so.
What you just said. Yes, in reality, that is how you make a peanut butter sandwich. But it gets more complicated than that when you're trying to coach somebody through it. to make a peanut butter sandwich, the first thing you have to do is go get the bread. Take the 2 pieces of bread out of the bag, right? You've got to have those details. That's what I'm asking. I'm just asking the question of, is he ready for that? If he is, okay, let's do it.
What leads you to even push back on the idea that he wouldn't be?
Because we have not seen his track record as a coach.
Why
And
why
at
should that
Ohio
matter?
State, it does matter. We just talked about the goal, the expectation every year is undefeated and winning the national championship, right? So if that is the expectation, you're bringing in an unknown guy, it better be the right guy, because you don't have 2 more seasons to continue to try to figure out the right guy. That's all I'm getting at, is you don't have that time. This is a show me business. Show me the results and you get the money. So that's all I'm saying. I haven't seen the results yet of James Laurinaitis' coaching.
He hasn't got a chance. He's a GA.
Yes. What
Give
do you
him the
think he does
chance.
then?
Get him the chance.
What do you think he does on a
we
day-to-day
didn't
basis?
we didn't see Brian. The same could be said for Brian Hartline until he got the chance, and then he made it happen.
He got the chance as an interim and made it happen because Zach Smith got fired before the season and they didn't have time to look for it. So that's my point.
Trial by fire, the way that Hartline had to do it, and he was able to recruit and he was able to get.
He's able to recruit, yes, and get dudes, but has he developed a wide receiver that you can say that guy is the guy and leaves a mark of what Brian Hartline's all about? I don't think so. I don't think he did. I don't think he has yet. And that's my point, is I don't think Brian Hartline's I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's a great coach. I think it's just going to take him a little more time to get up to speed to where we want him to be as a developer. And that's all I'm saying about James Laurinaitis is, do we have that time to wait to get him up to speed?
I don't see why you wouldn't do it. Period. I don't see why you wouldn't do it. He's a recruiting tool, and I don't understand why you wouldn't do it.
Yes, he is a recruiting tool. It's great to say, oh, hey, he can also be a recruiting tool whether he's on the staff or not. He doesn't have to be a member of the Ohio State coaching staff to be a recruiting tool.
That's ridiculous. I mean, if he's on the staff full time, he can go into a family's home and recruit the player. He cannot do that any other way. They have to come to Columbus in order for them to get in the room with him. Mm-hmm. That's okay. So that in itself is enough reason to let him go recruit. I don't know, man. I don't see the issue with bringing him on full time. I don't. You never know unless you try.
I agree. All I'm saying is he's an unproven commodity. That's it.
Well, I push back on that. I mean, I don't even understand. Like, what Ohio State's missing is the Ohio State, like, what it means to be an Ohio State Buckeye, I think is missing at the moment. And I think if you look across,
he's been on staff this season. Where was that? Where was that fire this year?
I think what you need is for him to be able to go out and recruit, and for him to be a legitimate tool for the defense and for the program. And I think in a GA role that is limited. And I hear what you're saying with where was it this year, but I think in a GA role that's limited. That's all I'm saying. And I think there is I don't think the risk of hiring him as an unproven coach, I think is I mean, again, we're not talking about bringing him on as a defensive coordinator. We're talking about bringing him on as a linebackers coach.
No, I totally agree.
I don't see the risk outweighing the reward. I don't.
I think that there are some risks. I'm not saying
there's risk in every hire.
Absolutely,
every single hire.
There's more risk right now because Ryan Day has lost 3 in a row to the team up north. You're asking to elevate a guy who was on staff for one of those losing efforts. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't have a role in making sure that guys were ready. I'm just saying that is that risk worth the reward?
Yes.
All right. Then we know
Undeniably,
you would
yes.
make that. I probably would not. At first, I would make sure I do my due diligence first. I wouldn't just hire him just to hire him. I think
I think leaving Parker Fleming as the special teams coordinator and that taking a full-time position, whether it's James Laurinaitis or anyone, is a disservice to the program right now.
I don't think it's a disservice. I think that
What
there
value
are.
is he adding? He's not adding value at all. None.
You're saying James Laurinaitis is not adding value right now?
No, Parker Fleming is not
Oh,
adding
Parker
any value.
Fleming? Yeah, get him out of here. I don't
That's
want
what
that guy.
I'm
I'm
saying.
not. I know, but I'm just saying I think we need to think about who replaces him. I think you need a guy who can coach special teams or somebody to on staff take that raise to take on those responsibilities. Totally fine there. But then if you're going to hire James Laurinaitis, at the very least, go do your due diligence. Find out if there's anybody else that you think would be a better fit. If there's nobody, then hire James Laurinaitis. But don't make bad decisions like Urban Meyer did with staffing that ultimately led to Urban Meyer leaving Ohio State. Look at some of the hires that he made. And you've got to think that, it can work out and it can't. And another thing with Parker Fleming, guy was an analyst for 2 or 3 years before he got hired. And he's been the special teams guy now for 2 or 3 years. And it's been dog shit ever since. Not saying that it's directly his fault, but I'm just saying that there's a case to be made to actually put on a real search and put on a real effort. But if James Laurinaitis becomes your guy, even through that search, yeah, hire him. I'm saying do your due diligence. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, and I think I to hell with hiring another special teams coordinator at this point. Like you figure out what you got with your staff and you make it work until, and if there is if there is another guy, I just don't understand why you would have Laurinaitis on your staff if you don't believe that he can make a difference. And I don't think that Ryan Day would have even brought him in as a GA if he didn't think that he could make a difference. If he didn't think he could make a difference, then why the hell is he there? That's my point. Why even bring him on? You would have brought on some other GA if that was the case. Why make it Laurinaitis? If you don't believe in him, then he wouldn't be there in the first place. He would have stayed in Notre Dame.
I think he had a compelling case to come back, and maybe he wanted to put his roots back down here at Ohio State. Ryan Day said, "Yeah, I'll take you." Why would you not take a blue blood legend, like you said, from Ohio State? Just makes sense to do it that way. So, yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't want James Laurinaitis. I certainly do, but at the same time, you have to take off the fandom or take a peek outside of the fandom and look at it in a business perspective and understand that just because of his name does not mean he's going to be the best coach in the world.
Well, I'm not saying because of his name, but I mean, I think the track
that's the track record of being a really good player is there for sure. Being a really good coach is not there because he hasn't done it yet. Not saying he can't do it, and I think he can. I think he can be the guy. I think he's going to be a really good recruiter because he's not even 40 years old yet, so he can relate to younger people and can go out and say, "Hey, man, I'm James Laurinaitis. Look at me. I'm a legend here at Ohio State." 33 is not the same being worn by anybody else than it was with me. So absolutely he can go out and do those things. Do I think that that's the end all be all? No, I think you need to coach too. So that's all I'm asking is, have we seen him coach? No, we haven't. We've seen 1 year of it here at Ohio State as a GA, and we've seen 1 year of it at Notre Dame as a GA. I think he's going to be a great coach, though. Again, that there is something to be said about just looking at things through the lens of, yes, I know this guy's going to bring in great recruits, but there's that second aspect of, can we develop them into the guys that need to be there to win the games? And that's what Ryan Day is paid, what, $8 million, $9 million, $10 million, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
a year to do. So will I speak out against him if he hires James Laurinaitis? No. But I'm still going to pose the question. If Ryan Day has a bunch of guys in there in the room, in the staff meeting saying, pounding the table, yes, we need to hire this guy. We need to hire this guy. And nobody's sitting back there saying, hey, Ryan, let's take a step back and look at it in a reasonable way and say, is this guy the right fit? If he is, sweet. I'm happy for that. That's what I want. But I know that winning in college football is not always as easy as bringing in former players to be
Well,
coaches.
of course. But I think there's a massive difference in being a GA and being that being your room. And I think if you turn that over to Laurinaitis and let that be his room, to where things go and he teaches them to play the way that, you know, he would like them to play, I think you will see the room elevated. And I think the only way to find that out is to let him do it.
Absolutely, you got to go let him do it.
He can't do that as a GA. You just can't. You can give input,
No.
but you can't do that as a GA.
You can do more of the coaching as a GA than you can as an analyst, technically. Now,
Well, yeah,
we all know that
right.
they all do the same thing. They all coach. Everybody on that staff coaches. Let's be honest here. But as a GA, yes, there are only certain things that he can do. Technically. But
Give him the room and make it his. That's all I'm saying. I don't think the Buckeyes would regret it.
I sure hope that they don't. But again, we're talking about an unproven commodity. Do we need another unproven commodity, or do we say give James 1, maybe 2 years learning from a really good linebacker coach, or another year under Jim Knowles to learn? Because Jim Knowles is really the linebacker coach. And how much do you think he's in that room? I don't think as much as James Laurinaitis is. So, yeah, there's probably a lot of coaching going on for James Laurinaitis. I'm also making the case for him now, too. So, wipe that salty face off before I throw some sausage biscuits at you.
Listen.
And
I just don't. Yeah. Bottom line, get Parker Fleming out because he's wasting.
I completely agree.
He's wasting a position.
I completely agree.
That's really what that boils down to.
And really all I care about, yeah. And really all I care about is, what is the next coach going to do with special teams? Who's that going to be? And is it beneficial to bring in somebody as a position coach and rely on the existing staff to be the special teams coach? I don't know. I'm not paid that much money to make those decisions. Well, I'm not. I'm just a guy that talks on the internet for tens of fans.
And bottom line, no matter what they decide to do with special teams, it can't get worse.
No, I totally agree, and it certainly needs to get better. That's my point too, is like, yeah, we know it needs to get better and that it really can't get worse, but who leads it to get better in that scenario? And I'm not sure that we know those answers. If we had those answers and Ryan says, hey, Perry Aliano, he's our special teams coach now. He's going to take it on with his DB duties. And James Laurinaitis, also going to assist him, is also going to be your linebacker coach. I'm not going to be mad at that. My point is it worth it for an unproven coach to come in and be that guy? And what do you do at special teams? Those are the only
Yeah.
questions I have. And I think you have to, once you address those, sure, hire whoever you want. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
everybody's an unproven coach until they're not.
No, I totally agree. The only way to get experience is by making those experiences.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that that is necessarily the biggest hang up. I think that you have to weigh the pros and cons of it first before you just jump in and say, "Yep, this is our guy." And
Yeah,
does
which is
James Laurinaitis
probably why the decision wasn't made on Sunday.
right? So hey, play it out until the contract ends, and we'll see. We'll see what is what. It may be as simple as saying, "Parker, see you later, buddy. Perry, we're going to elevate you, and James, you're going to be our guy finally." And we'll see how well that works out on the recruiting trail. I think it'll work out great. I mean, dude's a dog. He wants to work. I think, he can relate to some of these kids, and I think you can go get some of these 5-star guys that look like real 5 stars, but it is that the risk you're willing to take to win another championship? I would say maybe, maybe, but I'm not paid to make those millions. I know,
Me either.
I know, but
I'm the other guy on the
I know
internet that
you have a
pushes
strong
millions of
opinion
people.
on it. My strong
Yeah.
opinion is I don't know. So let's let it play out.
Yeah, and the only other I think I say that to say this too. I think the only other fear is like if Ohio State drags their feet, and I think you were getting ready to make this point, is that there could be another team that comes up and scoops them up too. So I now do I think he would just walk away from Ohio State that easy? No, but if somebody's willing to throw some money at him and make him that coach and take that chance on him, then I think he could. So that there's that fear there as well. Like if you drag your feet with it, then somebody could come scoop him up, and we won't even get the chance to see it happen. So a little bit of that in there too.
Yeah, and I mean, are we even confident that Jim Knowles is not going to Duke as well?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I really don't.
I'm just saying, like, are we confident that that's not going to happen? Because that could shake things up too. I know he was rumored to be one of those guys, and
He did
he
interview,
he
but
interviewed and he
I
played
don't see
and
there's
he coached there
yeah,
for like 7 years.
yeah.
So is that a possibility? Absolutely, that's a
Oh yeah,
possibility. Do
yeah,
I think that it'll happen? Probably not. I think Jim
yeah.
Knowles is going to stick around. And who better to learn from as a first time coach than Jim Knowles
Oh
as your
correct.
mentor there? So I think that it comes with the guide rails are in place if you do elevate James Laurinaitis.
Yeah,
But I think you're doing a disservice to Buckeye Nation if you don't look and do your full due diligence to see if there's some stud out there that coaches linebackers and special teams. We don't know. I don't know if there's a guy out there that does that. Maybe there is. If not, let's hire the legend.
yeah. Let's see if AJ Hawk will step away from McAfee, huh?
I don't know that they can pay him enough. I don't
No,
know what
I
McAfee's
think so.
paying him, but
Probably a lot of money.
Bobby
If I had to
Carpenter, are
guess,
we going to pick him up next as the next linebacker coach?
that'd be sick. General Bob. I'm in.
Schlegs, he's
Maybe,
coached before.
maybe body slam people before too.
Yeah, that just tells you don't run on the field if you've got a bladder full of alcohol, like a external bladder full of alcohol.
Especially if Anthony Schlegel's on the sideline.
Yeah, that dude will knock you out.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on, and as you said, it'll shake itself out, and they'll fall, and Ohio State will work towards a hopefully successful 2024 season. A lot of chips to fall. Might not be the last, couple of chips to fall in the transfer portal for the Buckeyes. Hopefully, there's no more movement there in key positions, and we'll see who the Buckeyes decide to bring in. See what happens at quarterback. A lot to be excited about for the Buckeyes. I think this is an off season for many reasons. There's going to be a lot of competition again, and we'll see where things shake out. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yes. Back to Jerry World we go. You know, Jerry World's a fun stadium to go to. Ohio State's played there quite a few times now. Won a national championship in that
3 or
building.
4?
I was at one of them.
TCU,
TCU, yep.
USC,
USC, Oregon,
Oregon,
national championship, yep.
and I think that this might be the 4th. Yeah.
And I was at that TCU game. That was Ryan Day's first game as a coach too, right? Or no, was that his maybe
Second.
maybe his second? Yeah.
Yeah.
As interim coach. That was fun. It's a really nice stadium. Those guys are going to have a really nice trip. You hate to see them miss the playoff, but happy to see them go into a New Year's Six bowl. Really, really excited to see how this 2024 preseason game gets kicked off in Dallas on December 29th at 8 p.m. on
ABC.
ABC. Wonder who we'll get for that. You think we'll get Kirk for that one?
I hope so. I would love to hear Kirk and Chris Fowler do that game.
What about Pat McAfee calling that game?
Now, there is an idea.
Do you think that that's one game that they on the sideline?
Pat, AJ, and Kirk. That'd be a 3. That'd be sick.
You're not going to put those 3 in there. Who's the play-by-play guy? AJ is a great guy, but he does not have the vocals to do play-by-play.
Hell, let Paul Keels do it.
I don't think ESPN's going to do that. I know he's done some regional games for ESPN in basketball, but yeah. I don't think ESPN's going to put him on a national broadcast that high. Paul Keels, good guy. Get a Mick Ultra for him, and
smooth voice. Paul Keels, voice of the Buckeyes.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll have a bunch more of the bowl game prep as we get closer and closer to that game. A lot of news will come out. A lot of roster decisions will shake out by then. So we'll get a good look at what the Buckeyes roster and what the Buckeyes lineup will be on both sides of the ball in that game. As I'm sure we will get some NFL announcements here in the coming days, weeks, whatever. So we'll keep an eye out on all that stuff and have that news for you guys when it happens. So thank you guys for coming in, talking about this whirlwind of a week that has been Ohio State football. And really the college landscape as well. We will have more coming for you tomorrow as far as the national landscape goes with me and John Ross for the Wednesday show. So once again, like, comment, subscribe. We're on the way to 100 subs here at High Street Sports. Again, it's been a fun first season for us here, and we appreciate each and every one of you that take the time to check us out every week. We've had a lot of new viewers with the Ohio State Michigan game coverage and stuff like that. So if you're watching, you're not subscribed, please go ahead, hit that sub button. It'll do a lot for us here, and we'll be able to reach you guys and bring you guys more and more each week, and as we get into next season and beyond. So appreciate you guys being here. For Vince, my name is Chris. This has been High Street Sports. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.